10. 10. Bye-bye.
More talk, news, and sports after this.
Go for gold, Terra Gold Cube, the amazing seasoning cube. So when you're cooking your delicious meals, don't compromise. Go for gold.
Rich, consistent taste for cooking mouth-watering soups, stews, and jollof. Choose wisely. Choose Gold. Terra Gold Seasoning Cube.
1 cube. Endless possibilities. Terra Gold.
Say hello, Lagos. Hello, Port Harcourt. Hello, Abuja. This is Kids FM, the family fun radio. Kids FM is packed with exciting drama, engaging games, inspiring stories, great music, and the kind of conversations that bring families even closer. From sunrise to sunset, we've got something special for everyone in the family. Kids FM is fun for children, cool for teens, and just perfect for parents. It's more than radio.
It's packed with educational content such as language shows, quizzes, storytelling, fun fact, and many more.
It's a family experience you can count on every single day. So, wherever you are, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, or anywhere around the world, you can tune in live on 101.7 Kids FM or stream online at kidsfm.ng. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at kids.fm.ng for all the fun updates, giveaways, and behind-the-scene moments. Kids FM, let's play!
Are you finding it difficult listening to your favorite talk radio Nigeria info via the mobile app? Come closer. Let me fix that for you. Now, launch the app on your device. Click the 3 lines on the top left corner of the app. Look for settings in the drop-down menu and click on it. Turn on the first option that you see. Make sure you turn on the option that says always use highest quality available audio. Now that you have done that, close the app and relaunch it. Voila! I did it! Oh, sorry, you did it. Now you can enjoy your radio anywhere, anytime. Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Secret that awakens taste buds. Mouth-watering wonder with awesome aroma. Terra Seasoning Cubes.
Terra Seasoning Cube turns your meals into a masterpiece.
Unwrap joy, unleash taste. Hey, come cook with Terra Cubes. Come cook with Terra. Terra.
My mission is simple: to take over your body, to cause fever, chills, headache. But one thing stays in my way. Come on.
Effective relief from malaria. Comal on. Malaria gone. If symptoms persist after 3 days, consult doctor.
99.3 Nigeria Info, your number one station for talk. Let's talk.
Listen, fellas and girls. Download the Nigeria Info mobile app on iOS and Google Play Store. Join the conversation and stay connected. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The conversation is just a click away. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
It's 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock.
And now the business news.
Lagos, good afternoon to you. Here's the business news. I am Buluwati Jagade. The Nigerian stock market closed October on a strong note as the second best performing month of the year behind July. The NGX gained 8% in October, driven by strong company earnings and ongoing government policy reforms. More than 12 billion shares were traded during the month. The biggest gains came from the industrial goods and oil and gas sectors. But November is starting on a shaky note, with more than 2 trillion naira wiped off investors' portfolios in just 3 days. Analysts believe this is partly driven by the US's designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern. The market will now be watching the final 2 months of the year to see if October's positive momentum continues into 2026 or Donald Trump determines where stocks swing. Nigeria's latest Eurobond offer has been oversubscribed by more than 400%. The $2.35 billion bond went up for sale on Wednesday, attracting orders of $13 billion. This is the highest ever demand recorded by Nigeria. A bond is a way government raise money from the public. The government repays with interest over a period of time, usually between 3 and 30 years. That's all for the news. If you have any news tip for us, you can call us on 01-465-7175. Thank you so much, Lagos, for staying with us. I am Buluwati Jagade. Borderlines with Ireti Bakare-Yusuf is up next.
They talk and you talk. This is Nigeria Info.
If you say no weapon fashioned against me shall prosper, what about the way we are fashioned against ourselves?
Campaign is over. I still wonder why we keep hearing they are coming. We are about to do this and that.
The devil wants us to say that God is not good. The crisis we are in now is economic persecution.
In fact, recording it and putting it on the social media is very good for him. It's a good evidence for him.
We've got to bring the green back into our nation. There's a reason why Nigeria's flag is green.
99.3. Your station for talk. Let's talk. They talk and you talk. This is Nigeria Info.
If you say no weapon fashioned against me shall prosper, what about the way we are fashioned against ourselves?
Campaign is over. I still wonder why we keep hearing they are coming.
Moscow to Abuja, London to Kigali. The world is shifting fast. Elections are shaping destinies. Wars are redrawing borders. Economies are rising and falling. And global alliances are being tested like never before. But what does it all mean for you?
With a new administration and a new president in the White House trying to put an end to the war.
I didn't know the historical context, what the state of Israel means for them.
Join the fearless Ireti Bakare-Yusuf on Borderlines every Friday at 4 p.m. on Nigeria Info 99.3. As she dissects the biggest global events and their impact on world peace.
Those who are not familiar with Israel or the war itself would not know much about the group breaking the silence.
No spin, no propaganda, just deep insights and fearless conversations on the geopolitics shaping our world.
People who will call and start telling me about the Bible prophecy about America and everything. See, America is not in the Bible. There's some people who just share the ideology of, yes, we and these people, we are equal, but they can't speak up.
Borderlines on Nigeria Info every Friday at 4 p.m. The world is changing. Don't just watch, understand it. Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Good afternoon and welcome to a special edition of Borderlines, the Town Hall. This is special because today we are focused on Nigeria. I'm supposed to have 4 very distinguished, interesting, fearless guests with me, but at the moment I have 2. So, where are we in Nigeria, and why is this town hall so incredibly important? On the 10th of October, the President of the United States, President Donald Trump, designated Nigeria as a country of concern. According to him, according to Ted Cruz and other American officials, let's call them that, or politicians if you like, including Canada actually, some of you may not know, there is apparently a genocide, a Christian genocide going on in Nigeria. I'm supposed to have with me Reverend Ayub, the chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, commonly known as CAN. He is the chairman of the Kaduna chapter and is also the country director of Global Peace Initiative. Hopefully he will join us. I also have with me the distinguished man himself, Mr. Kabiru Adamu, who is a security consultant and managing director of Beacon Consulting Limited. In addition to that, I'm supposed to have Mr. David Udein. He's an author and an investigative journalist. He's a name you're all very familiar with. And in addition to that, I have Professor Sarah El Tantawi, who is the Associate Professor of Modern Islam at Fordham University, New York. She's also the author of Sharia on Trial, Northern Nigeria's Islamic Revolution. Why is Professor El Tantawi's presence important? Because where it is said that there is a Christian genocide, then we have to juxtapose both, because as you all know, Nigeria is that religious country. But I'm going to start with the Nigerian in the house, since we're waiting for others to join. Well, he doesn't like to be called Dr. Kabir, but he is a doctor. Kabir Adamu, how are you?
I'm very fine. I'm delighted to be here. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we've got 2 hours of possibly one of the most educative conversations on this whole topic since this whole issue began in October. Christian genocide is what America actually accuses Nigeria of. Indeed, we've seen our governments running, or government officials running all over the place. We've seen propaganda. Some say it's true, some say it's not true. If I may ask you, as a security expert, what do you understand that term Christian genocide to be in terms of the allegations from the United States?
Thank you. Once again, I'm delighted to be here. And I think highlighting this topic is of utmost significance. As a Muslim, I went to pray the Jummah prayer today. And the apprehension, the concern within the Muslim community was palpable. The fact that the narrative does not seem to recognize the plight of the Muslim population in Nigeria, of course, has created significant concern within the Muslim community. And like I said, it was palpable. The Jummah prayer is a congregational prayer where Muslims meet to pray. And I think there was some concern that, they will not be bombed just because they've gathered to pray for that reason. Now, with regards to your question, the term genocide has a legal, connotation. It's a term that was created to define a legal creation, which speaks to specific targeting of individuals to exterminate them, as it were, from the earth. Now, to that extent, I'm not a lawyer, but that's how I understand genocide to be. The narrative of a genocide is not new in Nigeria. I think the most outstanding public statement that brought out that word was when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu visited Benue State, and then the Tor Thief, His Royal Highness, the Tor Thief, stood up in public, challenged the president based on a report that the state, the SSS had written, which is the local arm of the Nigerian intelligence community, had written. His Royal Highness stood up and challenged the president and said that report indicated that it was a farmer-herder violence or inter-community violence. That it wasn't that. It was a genocide. There was a specific targeting and killing of residents and locals in Benue State. And then, of course, he tied it to Christians. The fact that a significant number of the residents, in this instance, thieves, were Christians. He tied it to it. Before then, we've seen several publications by different civil society organizations, different churches, including the Catholic bishops in Benue State, that had also used that term. In Plateau State, that term had also been used to describe the killings that were occurring in those states. Perhaps with time, I don't know how much time you've allotted to me, but
right now we have lots of time because the other two guests are late. So go ahead.
Okay, let me try and share my screen. I hope it will work. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I just want to take us through what I tried to do in my organization. It's called Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited. We've been in existence for the past 13 years. And what we do is we put together data of security occurrences in Nigeria and try to make meaning out of the data. So what we did in this instance is to present what we call a disaggregation of 3 metrics: abductions, fatalities, and incidents according to locations. By locations, we mean the 36 states of Nigeria plus the Federal Capital Territory. And then, of course, religious religions. We narrowed down on 2 religions, which is Christianity and Islam. Now, that's not to say these are the only religions in Nigeria, but for obvious reasons, they are the dominant religions, so we kind of narrowed down on them. And in terms of the period, we looked at 5 years, 2021 up until October 2025. And what we found out, especially in this instance, for specific targeting of churches and mosques over this period. So this bar chart would show us what we saw in terms of specific targeting of churches and mosques within these five years. Now, for churches, which is on the left-hand side of my screen, for 2021, the lighter green represent incidents. Then the darker shade of green represents the number of abductions related to attacks on churches. And then the red would be the number of deaths that had occurred from specific targeting of places of worship, in this instance, churches. So for 2021, this is what we saw: 23 incidents, which resulted to 137 abductions, and then 27 deaths from that. Now, through to 2021, and I think the most important thing is we can see how it's been reducing from that 2021 up until October 2025. Now, if you go to mosque, which is what we have on in the bar charts on the right-hand side, you can see for 2021, it was 5 incidents that led to 62 abductions and then 19 deaths. Now, through to the present year, what we see in very simple terms is the variation in terms of as the attacks on churches were reducing, the attacks on mosques seem to be increasing. But what is even more, I would say, revealing was the dislocation of the attacks. Most of these attacks in the churches happened in the northeast of the country. And then, of course, I think the exception was the one attack in Ondo State that was highly fatal. But for most of the occurrences on that targeted the mosque, they were very specific in the northwestern part of the country, where mosques were being attacked and individuals were being abducted. So I'll go to the next slide, and perhaps if there are questions, we can come back to this one. Now, this next slide shows a disaggregation of incidents and occurrences in 2025. And as you can see, the total number of fatalities in the whole of 2025 up until the end of October was 9,540 deaths. And then for abductions, it's 7,175. No doubt extremely high and disturbing. So when we disaggregated this to bring out in terms of the religious affiliations, it came down to 2,831 Christians and then 6,709 Muslims. Again, this is in 2025. Then
is that overall? Is that overall or in a particular part of the country?
For the whole country.
Okay.
But I'll show us the map that would give us an indication of where the occurrences happened within the 36 states of the Federation. But this is just a snapshot of our dashboard that would show this. And you can see the progression from the beginning of the year, how it started. The month of January, we record the fatality figures was 1,101, and then through to the current month where we are. So clearly, from a very, very simple view, you could see that it's reducing from July through to October. Now, for abduction, the total figure in terms of the faiths, the two faiths, is Christians 1,251 in 2025, and then for Muslims 5,924 for 2025 still, from January to October 2025. And then if you're interested in regional or state-by-state disaggregation, we presented it here. Now, this is the total figure, not for the two faiths, but again, we can reduce this granularly to show it. But in terms of the dashboard, this is what is showing us. Then we did just a linear chart just to show the reduction. Here, we added the two figures together, both for churches and mosques. And then you can see how it's kind of declining, except for 2024 for abduction that we saw this increase. And specifically, when we looked deeper into the data, the reason for this is the number of incidents that occurred in the northwestern part of the country, specifically in Katsina and Zamfara state, where mosques were being targeted. And, people that were praying, Muslims were praying, they would be abducted and they would be killed. It principally led to this increase, but overall it was declining up to date. And I'll quickly kind of go to the map.
Yes, please.
I hope we can see the map.
Okay.
These are 36 states of Nigeria, and what we've done here is to represent the figures according to the two faiths. So the purple would represent Christianity, and then the orange would represent Islam. I'll pick just a few states to give us a sense of what this means. Let me start from Sokoto, which in the 5 years that we saw, the total count for Muslim is 1,321, while for Christianity is 74. The next state is Kebbi, which is 760 for Muslims, and then 40. But then if you go to, I think, where most of our listeners will be interested, will be Benue and Plateau. For obvious reasons, the media had highlighted that. Let's start with Plateau. The count was 1,194 for Christians and then 597 for Muslims. If you go to Benue, the count is 2,147 for Christians and then 243 for Muslims. And then, of course, the other states are also all represented there. We can come back to this.
Yes, we can.
It gives us a general sense. I think that's kind of all. This is just a linear presentation of the other data that I've presented earlier on in terms of the combination of the two faiths and what it meant to us. Overall, the most important, I think, information for us is the reduction in terms of attacks on religious places of worship, both started 2024 up into 2025. So I'll stop here. I don't know if you've got any questions. I'll be happy to kind of go over them.
Yeah, I actually do. But what I would ask you very quickly, because the other two guests have joined us, so I can bring them into the conversation, is much as you say what is most important is that it's reducing what, because there's a lot of people listening on radio and they can't see this. And of course, there's a large amount that's joined us on YouTube and Facebook who can see this. In short, what is it that everything that you've shown us, what does it say with regards to the Christian genocide or the allegation of Christian genocide?
In simple terms, it says that the selective narrative that a few individuals have tried to push is wrong. The situation is much more different. The targeting of Nigerians is not done on the basis of their religious affiliation. The targeting is done for several other reasons, including sometimes criminal, other times it's resource-based, and then, of course, other times it's even political. Just for instance, to single out to say Muslims are being targeted would be completely wrong based on the data I've just presented, or to now say that it's Christians are being targeted is completely wrong. The reality is very different, just like I've presented it. It's the killings that are done by different armed actors. The last count, we counted about 80 of such actors. And I think for me, that's the most disturbing element. The fact that the state has failed to protect law-abiding individuals who are going about their activities day by day, sometimes going to places of worship.
Thank you.
That should be probably the most sacrosanct and respected location. Unfortunately, it has turned into killing fields for most people.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to Prof because she's been here quite a while and listening. Prof, I know you're not Nigerian, but you did write a book about the Sharia law, which I find interesting in your book is you call it an Islamic revolution in Nigeria. Can you explain to us why? Rev and David, I will be coming to you in a few moments. Thank you for joining us. Prof, can you explain to us what you mean by an Islamic revolution with regards to Sharia in Nigeria, please?
Okay. Well, when I conducted fieldwork in northern Nigeria about this topic in the year 2010. And the reason was because, I'm American, right? So at the time, around 2003, I was working in Washington, D.C., and that was the run-up to the Iraq War. And we kept hearing about how there would be at least 500,000 casualties, and in D.C. people were talking about this in a very clinical way, right? As if there were these lives were just kind of numbers. Then one day there was this woman in Nigeria who was going to be sentenced to death by stoning because of Sharia law in northern Nigeria, and it was a world historical crisis. We have to save the life of this one woman, and we have to put a stop to Sharia law, and we have to put a stop to the barbaric medieval Muslims. So at the time, I did not know much at all about Nigeria, but I noted the discrepancy in the outrage between the way that potential Iraqi civilians were being discussed and the way one woman was being discussed in Nigeria. This led me down an entire journey, which ended up in me writing a book about, my dissertation, my PhD dissertation, and a book about northern Nigeria. So to answer your question, the reason I called it a revolution, when I went to Nigeria, I started out, before I went there, my question I was asking is, how does Islamic law work? If you re-implement Islamic law in any society, any Muslim majority society, are you automatically going to get stoning and hand amputations? Or does the context matter more? Like in this case, what's going on in Nigeria? And I would say that when I started the project, I was more in the first camp. And when I finished, after I spent time in Nigeria, I understood that this was actually all about Nigeria, specifically Nigerian history, etc. So I could go on for a long time about this, but what I found, and I just really talked to people, I interviewed a lot of people. I interviewed the people who wrote the Sharia penal code. I interviewed a lot of the people who supported Sharia, and really what it was. So let me be clear about what it was. This was the year 1999, and of course your panelists will know this better than me, but it was the year 1999 when people went out into the streets demanding the re-implementation of Sharia law after a particular governor in Zamfara state ran on the platform of, I'm going to bring back Sharia and I'm going to bring back justice. And the question is, what did he want justice for? Is it just because you're Muslim and anytime there's a Muslim, you're going to want stoning and hand amputations and Islamic law? No. He wanted very specifically an end to government corruption and an end to poverty. Now, him as an individual, let's not get into that. Of course, politicians are politicians. But I would argue that the people who supported him and the people that supported the call for Sharia, that's what they were wanting. They wanted an end to corruption and to poverty and to the misuse of the resources of Nigeria, which of course should be one of the richest countries in the world, given Nigerian resources. So when I say a revolution for Sharia or an Islamic revolution, there's more detail involved. It really means a revolution for, in the words of one of the people I spoke to who said it so well, let's bring back the laws of God because the laws of man have failed.
Thank you.
That would have been the impetus, yeah.
That's a good place, yes, to move. Okay, I can't see the Rev anymore, but I can see David. David, how are you? Welcome to Borderlines. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed. Of course, you know about the allegation of Christian genocide in Nigeria. I think you caught part of Dr. Kabir Adamu's presentation. And, of course, you heard Professor Sarah. From your point of view, and this is where I'm staying at the moment, that allegation of Christian genocide, when you heard it, what did you make of it?
So I guess I should start from 2019 because there's a context to this. So back in 2019, I was working on an NGO-funded project which was basically going around the country, or the Middle Belt and the northern half of the country, documenting some of these violent attacks. Now, I should mention that at the time, maybe I didn't have the level of awareness that I have now about international politics and geopolitics. So I just thought I was just a journalist who was part of a project documenting these horrors because I was doing the right thing. I didn't fully understand that there's a wider context to this, because eventually the report that was produced was submitted to the then U.S. Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, and the then Vice President, Mike Pence. And you may not know this, but that report was actually the basis of the decision by Mike Pompeo in 2020 to place Nigeria on the list of countries of particular concern. So why I started my answer from there is that a lot of my engagement on this topic over the years has actually kind of evolved, because when I first started discussing this issue, obviously based on the information I had access to and based on the documentation that I did and based on the people I was working with, it was very easy to say there is a genocide against Christians, full stop. Right. However, if you read that report, what the report actually says, and by the way, I should also mention that this report, it's called Silent Slaughter, Genocide in Nigeria and Implications for the International Community. Right. It was put together by two NGOs called the International Project for Peace Building and Social Justice and the International Committee on Nigeria, both of which are British NGOs. Now, this report kind of very cleverly framed this discussion in a way that inferred, for if you didn't read the report properly and you just saw all these pages and pages of documentation, pictures of dead people and death certificates and whatnot, the impression you'd go away with is that a group of attackers come into a locale, they find out who is Christian and who is Muslim, and then they ignore the Muslims, and then they go around slaughtering the Christians. And I think that's the impression a lot of people got. And that's absolutely not true. right? However, because the report was being produced for a very specific agenda, which I didn't fully understand at the time, and I kind of almost regret lending myself to it now in hindsight, because again, I just thought I was doing the right thing. The argument that this report makes is that there is a genocide against Christians in Nigeria because the number of Christians who are being killed in these areas is the proportion of deaths of Christians versus other groups is higher than the population share that Christians have in those areas. In other words, if there's a village with, say, 1,000 people, and there's an attack in that village, and let's say everyone is let's say 100 people are killed, and let's say there's 200 Christians and 800 Muslims in the village. The idea, the argument in the report was that based on that population split, the fair amount of Christians to die in that attack would be 20, and Muslims should be 80. Whereas the number of Christians who actually died is 40, and then Muslims that died were 60. So because the share of Christians who died is higher than their population share, that means that they're being specifically targeted for their religion, and that makes it a religious genocide.
Right.
However, that leaves the obvious question that even if you were to accept that argument, what do you then say about the 60 dead Muslims? Do their deaths not count? Because they're also dead people. However, the people who are carrying out these attacks, they call themselves Islamists. So because it's a Muslim killing another Muslim, what do you call it then?
Thank you.
You can't call it a genocide. So that's a very vexed and a very complicated question, and no one knows how to answer. So different people with different agendas just cherry pick different data points to push whatever agenda it is that they're trying to push. And in this case, the agenda was that the US president at the time, Joe Biden, the request that was actually made to Joe Biden was that he should appoint a special envoy to Nigeria. Now, again, in hindsight, you have to understand that I didn't understand,
of course,
the full geopolitical implication of these things. I just thought I was doing the right thing, and I was involved in this documentation project. I traveled to Kajuru, Southern Kaduna. We did a bunch of this stuff. I didn't understand that when the US appoints a special envoy to a country, like the way it appointed a special envoy to Sudan, which basically led to the breakup of Sudan into North Sudan and South Sudan, that if someone is explicitly requesting that as a solution in Nigeria, that's not something necessarily that is in my interest. That's not something that you should want, because I don't think the goal of any of this was to initiate a geopolitical breakup of more African countries. Africa is in a situation where it needs to aggregate. It needs to consolidate itself into, if possible, one continental bloc. Africa is not in a situation now where it needs to be fragmenting into smaller micro-ethnic states, but apparently that was the agenda that was being pushed, and I wasn't completely aware of this until fairly recently. So now that Donald Trump is back in power, because obviously all of this took place.
Yeah, I have to rush you. Yeah, we're running out of time. 2 hours always seems long.
All of this took place
never long enough. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just really quickly close with this. So that took place under the first Trump administration. Now Trump is back. A lot of those characters are back, and a lot of the people who call themselves Christian nationalists who surround him are also back. Now, we all know that they have a completely different agenda, which revolves around rare earth minerals and, big power competition with China and all of that. This is very well known. However, this entry points that is being used into Nigeria, this excuse that, it's about Christian genocide. Suppose the same way the excuse being used in Venezuela is, it's about drug dealers. The reason it's having the success it's having in the Nigerian popular psyche is because that seed has been planted, and that narrative has been fed over the years by people, including people like me, unwittingly.
Of course. That
somehow there's a situation in northern Nigeria where Muslims are having a great time. Nothing is happening to Muslims, and it's just Christians. Meanwhile, the biggest number of people who have died in northern Nigeria are actually Muslims. Just nobody talks about it because it doesn't fit any convenient narrative. So that's the situation that we're in. And, it's unfortunate that I would consider myself to have been part of the problem in the past, actually, but here we are.
Thank you so much, David. Rev, good evening, sir. Reverend Hayab, can you hear me? I'm not sure if the Rev can hear me.
I can hear you now.
Okay, good evening, sir. How are you? So sorry, no worries.
Good. How are you too?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. As the representative of CAN, no, not at all. It's our pleasure. As the representative of CAN, I'm going to put the same question to you as well, although we're fast running out of time because this first segment, we have to give a good 10 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes for Q&A from our listeners. When you hear the term or the allegation of Christian genocide from the United States, President Trump, Ted Cruz, etc., what were your thoughts? And indeed, do you agree with them?
Because you are running out of time, I will save you and just go to the basic. One, I've listened to the other speakers. I've listened to the arguments they bring. I am not speaking from research or whatever. I'm speaking as a victim. I'm speaking as the pastor who buried the almost 2,000 people in 2000 in Kaduna. Quote me, my name is Reverend Hayab. I'm speaking as the pastor who also did the mass burial of the over 300 people of the Miss World Beauty pageant on the 23rd of November 2002. I'm also the pastor who came out publicly to denounce the Danish cartoon in 2006, but it later leads to the death of Christians in Maiduguri and death of Christians in Bauchi. So I have been around and I think I know this story. Listening, we are coining it into the politics of America as if we are not in Nigeria. And someone is saying that at least if it was used, sincerely speaking, there has been killings of Christians in northern Nigeria before even the advent of Boko Haram. I was in Kano. I just left Kano with 1 week, and the killing of the visit of Reabonke happened. People were caught. It's a different thing that you are shot to death. It's something else that you are caught to pieces, caught by the neck, caught hacked to death. I saw these cops. I had to run back. My pastor asked me, why did you come back? I said, no, I just left for Kaduna 1 week, and then I heard what happened to my people in places in Kano. I just came back. So it is something that has...
Sorry, sir, if I may interrupt you. What year are we talking about?
I'm taking you back.
Okay.
To tell you that I was available when the Bonke crisis happened in Kano. I was also there, not only there, but buried the mass people that were buried in 2000. I also buried the mass people that were buried in 2002. Then fast forward to 2006, I said I was the pastor who first came out to condemn the Danish cartoon because I knew what was going to follow. But despite that effort, Christians were killed in Maiduguri. Christians were killed in Bauchi for an offense they had no problem about. They knew nothing about. If I just move backward, what happened in 2002, many Christians in northern Nigeria, including Kaduna, don't even know the lady who wrote the article. But they ended up having their churches burned. They ended up having their pastors killed. They ended up having, precisely the Sunday before that violence, I had a guest preacher in my church, Reverend Nee preached in my church at Rahama English Baptist Church. You can Google it. I remember when you could Google that. And just a day after that, that man was burnt. His corpse was like that of a small baby. So when you put together all this, in Maiduguri in 2009, when Boko Haram started, they were never attacking Muslims. They actually went for the church because they said, we are infidel. One among the early pastors that was killed was Pastor Oji. Pastor Oji was killed. When he saw he was going to die, he simply said, go and tell my brothers I die well. Pastor Osonibon was also Sylvester Osonibon, because I traveled with the corpse to Ekot Ipene, and then Pastor Yakubu Bitrus, whose brother was then the medical director of the General Hospital in Maiduguri. So I got involved in these things more than the hair story. The Christian North have suffered killing. The Christian North have suffered so much in this thing that today culminates into genocide, as it has been called. So for anybody to say it does not exist and is bringing story of Boko Haram or recent happenings of bandits may not understand, because I followed the conversation. Nobody is saying that the Christian North was just killed in 2002 or they were just killed in 2019. There has been a history. There has been certain pattern. There has been certain developments. But let me come back to the last 6 years. I am this same pastor who came out severally on this medium and other medium to cry when I was burying 30, 20, 40, and many other numbers. And why were those people killed? The story they always want to tell is that no, it is a farmers herders. I'm above 56. I know the difference between a farmers and herders conflict, and I know the difference between someone coming to exterminate or eliminate a certain group of people. Because farmers, as we knew, simply had little misunderstanding with herders, and the herders will come either to the police station or to the traditional ruler or community leader, and such issue will be discussed, and they will now ask for reconciliation and possibly ask for little payment of damages. But we have a situation where innocent women are sleeping in their sleep with their children, with their husband, and people will come to their community, chant religious slogans, set their houses ablaze, shoot them and cut off their necks, and do not stop there, also burn their religious places. And you still want me to say, no, it is just a communal clash, because that's the kind of farmers herders clashes. And that's why today we are hiding under those things to argue about that. I looked at the issue of statistics and I just wonder, if you sit there, just Google, you will see in the Wikipedia, the number of churches that document is giving you that the churches in Nigeria are just 16,000 something. And you and I know that is not true. I am a pastor of the Baptist Church. The Nigerian Baptist Convention, just Nigerian Baptist Convention, we have over 11,200 registered churches. We never bring Redeem into it. You never bring Anglican into it. No Catholic into it. No Methodist into it. No Living Faith into it. So some documents and figures that we have been seeing are quite interesting, but just tell us that there is even to us a conspiracy of silence or a conspiracy of twisting a situation. I see what is happening and as an opportunity for us to stop the killing of our fellow citizens just because of their identity. Do you just talk about killing? My daughter got a score of 268 in JAM. She was not given admission in ABU. I had to go and fight. I told them, if you had even given her physics, I wouldn't have a problem. But to say she wasn't given admission, and I can see others who had 198, 202 given admission. What was her sin? Her name. My wife, the mother of my 6 children, went to receive an indigent form in a local government, in Kaduna, not local government. The lady who was in charge of that document is from Borno, but she sits in Kaduna to superintend. She gave her a settler certificate.
What has happened to Reverend Ayub's? Can we get him back, please, tech team? We seem to have lost Reverend Ayub. I'm going to open up the lines now for, I think we can do 7 minutes. So please make it short, make it sharp, make it succinct. Not a review, just ask your question. If possible, state whom you're asking the question of. So we have Reverend Ayub, whose line we've lost, but they're going to get him back. We have Dr. Kabiru Adamu, we have David Udoyin, and we have Professor Sarah L. Tantawi. The telephone number is 0201-277-0993, or the female line is 0201-465-7190. Hopefully you've been sending your questions, and yes, you can do comments on WhatsApp 0809-597-5805. Also on YouTube and on Facebook, because we're going to be picking up from everywhere. I'm coming to your calls now. Hello.
Good afternoon. This is Joy.
Go ahead, Joy. Good afternoon. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Lagos.
Go ahead.
My question is, I think, is it true to say that they are also coming through farmers' headers? Because in my place, they are seeing Fulanis going to farm to displace people in the farm. So this question goes to David and the Reverend and also Adamo. So is it safe to say, why are we having the Fulanis going to people's farm? It happened in Enugu. It's happening in some places in Abia State. It's happening in some places in Edo and in Asaba. And when you ask, they will say they are Fulani people. So I want to know.
You want to know if they're Fulani or not? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
People say,
no, I've got it. Thank you. Sorry, we don't have time. I have to be very, very strict. Gentleman, lady, you can write that down. I'll come to you. Let me take one more. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Rita.
Go ahead, Rita. What's your question, please?
My question is, why is it that anytime they come, because I've seen it, I'm from the north, Why is it that they always make use of the word army and they are not being rebuked? Because most times when we ask the question, you will say they come in place of using the religion. Why is it that the religion instead is not stopping them from using the word? Because
which word? Sorry, which word?
Army. They always use army.
Army.
Okay.
Yes.
Which means
So
what?
Yes.
Tell everybody what it means. A lot of people won't know.
We don't have religion.
Okay.
The Christians, we don't have religion. Why are they
Right.
using it? And the Muslims are not rebuking them from it.
Okay.
And this thing did not happen today. Since 1999.
No. We can only take questions. We don't have time. Thank you so much. Stay listening. I'm going to put that to you, Reverend, and to Kabir, because I believe you understand the language. One more. Let me take another call, please. Hello.
Hello, Sisi.
Yes, go ahead. Your name, please.
This is Remy from Makoka.
Go ahead, Remy.
How many people need to be killed in a faith for it to be called genocide? It's like there's a certain number that must, a certain amount of people must be killed before we can call it genocide. Since we are arguing over Christian up to Muslims, how many people need to be killed before we can call it genocide?
Thank you very much. Okay, right. So we've got a couple of minutes before we go to the break on the hour, although I'm trying to get out of that. Who wants to take the first question? Rev, you were talking. Would you like to take that, sir?
Yeah, I was talking when the line went off. I'm in a remote area.
Yes, of course. No, thank you.
I think the question about calling other people Arne is one of those errors, and it's what we've been carrying, one of the cross we've been carrying for a very long time. That's why sometimes when we listen to some of this conversation, we wonder. The pains we go through from words, from action, from attitude are far, far, far more painful than even the number of deaths. And the last caller actually asked a very key question. What constitutes genocide? And when you look at the definition of genocide, there is nothing in the definition of genocide that has not happened to the Christian North. Are you talking about taking our children? Up to this hour, I'm speaking to you. In so many houses of traditional rulers in northern Nigeria, Christian girls are being taken, forcefully given to marriage. The father and the innocent mother will just sit down and the court will call them to come and answer that their daughter is no longer their daughter. She is now somebody else's daughter and he has given her out to marriage. We cried out in this country. If someone says he does not know this, then I'm surprised. We've gone to government. There's nothing to be done. If you resort to violence, we know the result of violence. When you go to the law, you don't get the law. I believe these are the accumulations of the crime, killings, maltreatment, abuse, that has led to where we are today, not because of an agenda that we are trying to twist the story. Because let's be honest of the fact, if we don't know the sickness and don't treat the sickness, we won't get out of this. We'll all be in this together.
Thank you. Okay. David, Dr. Kabir, would you like to take any of those questions or two of them? Or all three?
Yes, let me give it a go.
Go ahead.
The first question, I think it was Joy that asked, are they Fulanese? In my contribution, I mentioned that there are about 80 criminal groups, actors that perpetrate violence across Nigeria. And definitely among those 80 are what has been termed Fulani militias. They are armed. They are going about committing all sorts of atrocities. But I think, and this is where I would probably point out or disagree with Reverend Hayab, in the sense that we do not deny the existence of his pain, but we're also telling him to acknowledge the existence of the pains of the other side. Some of what he has repeated, if you sit with the family of late General Alkali that was killed simply because he was a Muslim traveling through Jos, and his corpse and his vehicle hidden in a pond, and somebody mobilized women to prevent the military from the excavation of that corpse and the vehicles, where it was covered by the media. So our point, and then I can give so many examples of similar occurrences perpetrated by actors that could have been Christians. We're not denying his pain. We're not denying what he has said, but we're simply saying acknowledge the pain of others too who have been targeted because of their identity. Second question on the concept of Arne. Arne means disbeliever. It's a Hausa word that has been conceived to refer to disbelievers. It's a part of what we call negative characterization of certain elements within the Nigerian society. I doubt if there is any language that you go to that you will not find that type of negative characterization. And because Hausa is simply the lingua franca, as it were, of northern Nigeria, that concept has become more popular than the other concept. And I think there is a lot of advocacy going on by Islamic clerics, by NGOs, to reduce and probably stop the usage of that language. I think everybody realizes that it's not positive, it's not encouraging peaceful coexistence to that extent. I think I'll stop here.
Okay, thank you. David, would you like to answer any of the questions? All three?
Yeah. The gentleman who asked what is the threshold for genocide. He can actually Google the answer to that question, because there is a threshold. There's a legal threshold. The legal definition of genocide, well, part of the legal definition of genocide is actions that are taken with the intent to partially or in whole wipe out a religious, ethnic, or I believe that there are certain identity markers that when you are trying to wipe out entire populations in whole or in part, including wiping out their cultural identity, including transfer of children, those are the things. And when those things are done at scale, then that is classified as a genocide. That, which is how come, for example, even though Israel spent 2 years committing genocide in Gaza, it took almost 2 years for that to be acknowledged legally as a genocide, because there is a legal threshold for what is called genocide. So nobody's saying that pogroms haven't been committed for the longest time in northern Nigeria. Nobody's saying that. Obviously they have. As the Reverend rightfully said, the Miss World riots, I believe that was in 2000 or 2001, I don't remember the exact year.
2002.
This was very well known. We saw the outcome of those things. We saw a trailer load full of corpses being delivered to a city in Nigeria as a result of those riots. So there was a pogrom, and there have been several pogroms across Nigeria for several reasons, for several decades. Pogrom and genocide are not the same thing, right? That's like comparing a fishing boat with a fishing trawler. They're completely different things. And the reason that's a very important distinction to make is not because somebody is trying to be semantic here. It's because the people who are trying to use this thing as an entry point into your country, the warmongers who want to exploit what is in your country at your expense and want to use this as an entry point, a convenient reason to come into your country, the bigger the reason that they are able to manufacture, the bigger the kind of deployment that they are going to be able to activate in your country. And all you have to do is look at the history of these people's actions in other countries, wherever they have intervened. Where have people been better off for it? Nigeria is 2 borders away from Libya. Okay. That is the world's biggest example of what happens when you allow do-gooders from the global north put military boots on your soil to do good for you. Okay. You will never recover from it. Okay. So anyone who thinks that this is finally our grievances are being heard, finally someone is giving voice to our pain, finally something is going to be done about this, I think that person needs to wake up, because that's not how the world works at all. And the corollary to that is that even in acknowledging that all this pain exists and all these things have gone on for years, because all the things that the Reverend said are true, manifestly true. We've seen news coverage of this for decades. However, when you draw the line back far enough, because I believe in addressing the root cause of an issue, I don't believe in fighting the symptoms.
I'm gonna have to rush you.
At each other. Where does the thread eventually lead back to? You find out that this radicalization and this extremism, which always seems to lead back to the Gulf, to Saudi Arabia, to Qatar, where does it ultimately lead to, even beyond Saudi Arabia and Qatar? It's always the U.S. State Department, because they are the ones who are in charge of that entire region. That is where all of this leads to. So the people who created the problem, who are now coming in as the Captain America, who are going to offer you the solution, I think you'd have to be a bit unintelligent to not understand the game that is being played here. They are the ones who created the problem. They are the ones offering you a solution. It's not for your own good. And I don't see why that should be a controversial comment to make.
Thank you very much. Prof, I know we've been very Nigeria-centric, because this is a Nigeria problem. However, I want to know, would you like to comment on the idea that Islamization, which I think is one of the things, is Fulanization, is contributing to what we're seeing, whether you think it's a Christian genocide or a general massacre of Nigerians. I can give you a couple of minutes for that, if you'd like to comment.
So one thing I'd like to say, without taking away from anybody's pain in the situation, I just want to point out as an outsider. One thing I said earlier was back in 2003, when there was a lead up to the Iraq War in Washington, D.C., and there was a moment of, what about Nigeria? What about what the Muslims in Nigeria are doing to distract from this imperial war that was about to unfold and kill 1 million plus people in Iraq? I have to say that I'm seeing the same thing now, another what about Nigeria moment vis-a-vis the genocide in Gaza. So Israel has been hit hard with accusations of genocide, and the American public are finally starting to wake up to that reality. And it's important for Americans, since the American taxpayer funds this. And what you'll see if you pay attention on social media, in popular discourse, is that there's another moment of, that's not a genocide. Why don't you take a look at what's happening to the Christians in Nigeria? That's the real genocide. Now, that is an undeniable trend that is happening in the past year. That is so obvious for all of us to see. That doesn't take away from the facts on the ground of what's going on in Nigeria, but we can't deny that there's also that at play. And I have to agree that when you have Trump and Hegseth threatening military action in Nigeria, I can't imagine that going well for the Nigerian people. That's just my opinion. As for Islamization, there is something to be said about Islamist groups in general. And I'm currently writing about the genesis of a major Islamist group in Egypt. Right, that's my current work. But I would simply limit myself here to saying that on a worldwide scale, let's say over the past 50 years, for whatever reason, the vast majority statistically of the victims of Islamist jihadist groups are overwhelmingly Muslim. Maybe like 86% of the victims. So, I saw Dr. Adamu's statistics, and they made sense to me that the numbers look a little bit even between Christians and Muslims, if not in some cases more Muslims. And I would love for your panel to maybe try to explain why that's happening. I mean, is that true? Is it actually really more Muslims? Tell me why that would be.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. I've got a couple of comments here that I must read, and then we'll go to part 2. Good evening, Ireti Bakare-Yusuf. There shouldn't be any argument on whether there is Christian genocide or not. The fact remains Christians are being massacred on a daily basis, and have every right to cry out for help. Christians are not in a competition with Muslims on the number of faith adherents being killed. If the Muslims are tired of being killed, they should also cry out. I think that they will make the government sit up and do the needful. I have a question for you, Dr. Adamu, which I will come back to. I'd actually had it written down, which is, you mentioned about 80 actors. Would like you to break those 80 actors for us in terms of, are they Muslims? Are they Christians? Are they just criminals? Are they just insurgents? But I'll come to you. Before you answer, like I said, I'll come to you in a moment. Let me read another question. This question is directed primarily to David, though other panelists are welcome to contribute. Considering the methodology and the scope of your research, is it possible that data collected may exhibit bias or distortion in either direction? Additionally, what factors, in your view, might contribute to the apparent underreporting or limited public discussion of deaths within Muslim communities. David, don't answer that yet. Write it down. I've got to go to part 2, otherwise we'll never get everything done. This part, okay, I've been allowed to go beyond the advert, so that's good. Goes to show how important you guys are. And the lines are still going. I'll come back to your lines in a moment. This part, I'd like us to talk about politics or politricks. So we've had the United States speak from their political point of view as, if you like, the policemen of the world. However, when we look at what's happening in Nigeria, would it be correct when people say our current administration and successive prior administrations are also and have been playing politics with the lives of Nigerians, irrespective of religion or otherwise? I'll come to you first, Doctor, because you were the first person I spoke to before, so we'll go in that order again.
Okay, politics, yeah. Let me refer to the report written by the United States Commission for International Religious Freedom. It's available online. I urge everyone who wants to respond to what I'm going to say to please go download it and read it. That report was released in July this year, and it's a report on Nigeria, specifically discussing religious freedom in Nigeria. Now, it did conclude that there was suppression of religious freedom. But then why I referred to that report is it brought out elements of what it called religious suppression. And interestingly, recognized the fact that it affects the two dominant faiths in Nigeria, Islam and Christianity. It wasn't specific to Christianity. So I was surprised when I had President Trump singling out Christianity when a commission, a U.S. commission had issued a report, and a lot of what was relied on to categorize Nigeria as a country of particular concern was actually from that report. The bills that were submitted by several congressmen relied on partly on that report. So that's number one. Number two is also current political dynamic in the United States. Elections were held a few days ago, and of course we all are aware of the outcome of those elections. And there is enough to suggest that perhaps President Trump and some of the Republicans in his administration, of course, are pandering towards domestic affiliation, especially the evangelist movement, to support his domestic grassroots support. And possibly, interestingly, The Economist published a report earlier this week where they showed in clear terms he's at his lowest approval rate according to that poll. So clearly there is an attempt, as it were, to reinvigorate that domestic support that he has from the evangelical base. And I mean, it's very clear that for him to single out Christianity when the report that we saw did not single out Christianity. It spoke about Islam suppression. And a very good example happened just 2 days ago in Kwara State, where an imam was mobbed, was killed simply because he was accused of witchcraft. Now, he wasn't killed by Christians. That's not what we're saying. He was killed by a mob. We don't know the identity of that mob. They could have been Muslims, they could have been Christians, but the mere fact that he's an imam and he was killed simply because he exhibited whatever it was that they suspected him to have exhibited occurred. And there are so many cases of petitions like that we received locally, and I'm sure Youth Crib also received. So that's to extend.
Thank you very much, Dr. David. Because we lost Rev. I was trying to see him, but you're back. Good to have you back, Rev. David, what do you have to say to my question? Politics or politricks? Indeed. Who's playing what? Is it us, as in Nigeria? Is it the current administration, prior administrations, or is it the United States, or is it a case of both?
So I know that there are a lot of people who don't want to hear this, especially in Nigeria, because I think we have been raised with this faulty idea that we're these great, big, important people in the world that we really aren't. Unfortunately, we are acting as the graphs in a fight between two geopolitical elephants right now. That's actually what is happening. And I know some people will say, oh, is it the US that said, or is it China that said, blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, when these two elephants are fighting, these are the symptoms that start to happen in your country, right? There is a basic geopolitical clash. There's a civilizational clash between the US on the one hand and BRICS led by China and Russia on the other hand. And the basic idea is that the US empire is in decline and the perceived BRICS empire is on the ascendancy. And, the US does not want that to happen. And it's one of its primary concerns as a cause for its decline is that it no longer has access to the things that will define all of today's and tomorrow's technology, especially military technology, such as, for example, rare earth minerals and rare earth minerals refining, which, as you know, China controls something like 85% of the global supply chain for. Now, if you are trying to pivot away from China, which has locked you out of that supply chain by imposing export restrictions as it did, and by the way, they've said all this openly. The US Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, said this openly, that they have a 2-year timer to pivot away from China and build out a whole new rare earth minerals supply chain somewhere else. He didn't specify where. But where else on the planet, if not in China, are you going to find those things in those quantities and then have the sufficiently lax environmental restrictions that allow you to carry out these extremely toxic, extremely environmentally devastating refining activities for rare earths? Where else is it going to be in the world? It's obviously going to be in Africa. And that is what is happening. So these guys are simply pivoting toward Africa. As you may or may not know, the US, the US State Department has a doctrine called the Monroe Doctrine, which was created under the former US President James Monroe, which essentially states that the entire Western Hemisphere and Atlantic region, which includes West Africa, by the way, is considered by the US to be part of its natural sphere of domain, its natural domain, its natural sphere of influence. China, on the other hand, also considers Nigeria to be an integral part of its Belt and Road Initiative, which is why I'm sure you've seen the news that over $21 billion worth of deals were signed with China. So Nigeria is the junction point. Nigeria is at the middle of a quarrel between two superpowers. That is what this is about. So the people who are making noises about coming in to fight for Christians or whatever, they couldn't give less of a damn about whether Christians live or die. If they cared about Christians, they wouldn't be trying to pull the same stunt in Venezuela, which is almost 100% Christian.
Thank you.
All those boats they're blowing up in Venezuela, all those fishermen they're blowing up on the boats and claiming that those are drug dealers, those are Christians, right? So religion plays absolutely no role in this geopolitical calculation, except as an entry point to gain access to a country, which is what this is actually about. And I think it's very important that whichever side of the divide that you sit on, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Christian, I am neither, so I have no horse in that race anyway. But I think whichever side of the fence you sit on, it's important you understand that those who are coming for you see you as fundamentally the same thing. Whether you are the bishop in Kaduna who has a grouse because your congregation has been slaughtered by an Islamist mob before, or whether you're the army general in Jos who has a grouse because your Muslim relatives have been supposedly slaughtered by Christians, whatever it is, the people who created the circumstances for this division to exist and who are exploiting it and who are, carry out all sorts of actions behind the scenes to ensure that these divisions remain inflamed, right? Including use of, there's an extreme deployment, for example, of social media sock puppet accounts of recent across Nigerian social media, specifically with the goal of keeping these conversations as inflamed as possible, right? Those operations are not run out of Nigeria. They're run out of DC and Tel Aviv. Those are the people who are in control of these operations. So when those people now come to you saying, oh, they want to save Christians, there's Christian genocide, you should know that there is no sincerity whatsoever in what is coming out of the mouth of people like Donald Trump. They have economic and geopolitical objectives, and whatever they're saying, whatever you consider to be useful to you in what they're saying, is just a means to an end. That's the first thing. The second thing, which I guess the fellow asked the question that is there a potential for data bias in some of the
reports that you did, yes.
Yeah, and why are Muslim deaths under discussed and underreported in the Nigerian space? Well, I don't think it's my place to question the methodology of the data collection. I think it would be hypocritical of me to do that because I was part of the data collection and I didn't notice any problem with the methodology. However, in hindsight, I can't say that there probably was a problem with the motive. So the methodology might be correct, but if the motive is, skewed, that can be a problem. So in this case, as I came to find out later, the motive was to use that report to pressure the U.S. Department of State to appoint a special envoy for Nigeria, because the people behind this project ultimately had this idea of splitting up Nigeria into 2 or more countries. That's what that was actually about. I didn't know that when I worked in that report, and if I had known, I would never have worked in such a thing. So yeah, there was definitely a problem with the motive, maybe not so much with the methodology. And then why are Muslim deaths not discussed as much, or why don't people realize that as much as Christians are dying, Muslims are dying in even greater numbers? Why is it only the Christian deaths that get discussed? I think that there are 2 main reasons for that. The first is that, as I said earlier, if you have Islamists murdering people who are supposedly also Muslims like them, what do you call that? Under what umbrella do you put that? It's not an easy story to report. There's no angle that you can easily report it. There's no, you can't hang a cap on it easily. You can't label it easily. You can't call it a genocide. You can't go, what do you want to call it exactly? And then that is further complicated by the fact that there exists this very, very unfortunate idea, which was popularized by the US and its so-called war on terror, that Muslims are just mindless, violent beasts. So if Muslims
I'm going to need you to wrap up,
and maybe they're dying at the hands of other Muslims. Oh, well, it's just Muslims doing what they do. Who cares? It's just them. The second reason why that is also the case, why one set of deaths is talked about constantly, why another one goes completely under the radar, is because, as I'm sure we're realizing now, this has been a multi-year project. We're just at the culmination of it, where these things are now being said openly. But this has been a multi-year project to stoke division and to present things in such a way as to create the situation for the type of intervention that they are seeking now. So they've always been strategically amplifying one side while completely ignoring another side. So you've always heard about as I said, the 40 Christians that died. But the 60 Muslims that died never get reported because, again, they're just Muslims. This is what Muslims do. Muslims are crazy people who go and shout Allahu Akbar and shoot each other. That's the very dangerous
David, I'm going to have to wrap you up, yes, because of time. Sorry, finish your sentence. I'm just being cautious of time.
No, you can.
Are you sure?
You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to have interrupted you. Rev, I'm coming to you.
Thank you very much.
The question was politics or politricks?
It's more of a voice.
Yes. The question, sir, was politics or politricks. Yeah. Go ahead.
The politics of this whole issue begins with Nigeria. This previous bad governance. I have said it in very many fora that there may have been a shift in the last 24 months, like in Kaduna. We no longer bury 20 today, 30 next tomorrow or next month. We have stayed for over a year, if not 2. We don't have such happenings like a daily occurrence. That's why the story coming out here looks good. And we give credit to the new governor, give credit to the kind of understanding that is working around the community, because even terrorists or bandits or whatever title you call them can just easily operate in a community when there is a space for them. But once there is no space for them, they cannot operate. They are not spirit. I've always said that these people are not spirits, they are human. When you don't give them space, they will not do. So there is this politics attached to it. And we know, you remember, I don't want to drag into names here. A former governor of Kaduna, whom on the eve of election came up with some kind of stories. And many things happened after that, led to the death of so many hundreds of people. These are the kind of things that sometimes makes things difficult. So you see, when you have a government that don't take the killing of our citizens serious, when you have a government that do not stamp our authority, work, whatever may be the motive, you can interpret this motive. And let me put it there. I'm not sure that we Christians want, quote me, Google, you will see I have refused the designation of Nigeria in CPC. I was even misunderstood by one American who came here and wondered how could a church leader say you do not want Nigeria to be designated as a country of particular concern. But you see, I cannot just say that without first acknowledging that something is wrong. And if we don't acknowledge what is wrong, we can't correct it. And I think the kind of conversations we bring and discuss, one of the reasons why our conversations end is we don't acknowledge. For the first time, I heard doctors speaking in a more way saying we acknowledge those pains. But in the past, it is like, oh, you are raising too much alarm. Oh, you are raising too... How can I not cry when there is pain? If America is capitalizing on it for any political reason, which I do not know, and I'm not saying I don't care, but it is because you allow the wall to break. In the Hausa adage, it says it is when the wall is broken that the lizard will find a way in. We have allowed this evil to continue in our country. Then there was no Trump before you bring Trump into some kind of calculation. Even, see, I was privileged to meet Biden, or let me say, not Biden, Blinken, when he came, removed Nigeria in the country of particular concern just 2 days before his arrival. We had these kind of conversations around. We were not insisting that Nigeria should go back, but what we just want is a situation where there is something going on wrong in the country. Let's correct it. Let's work on it. And there are things we can do together to correct it, whether in the side of the people, the side of government, the side of security. I had a presentation. I actually sent it to your staff thinking I will present after I have listened to Doctor. In that presentation, you would have seen a counter figure with data and maps of the killing, different from what Doctor just presented. But because we didn't come here to argue, we just want to find solution. And that's why I focus on saying there has been killing and maltreatment of Christians, sure, in northern Nigeria, not just 1 year, not just 2 years. If anybody had engaged anybody to have an agenda different, we are not interested in the person's agenda. We are interested in our safety. We are interested in the security of our land. We are interested in the safety of our children and grandchildren so that they will live in a country where they are respected, where they are seen and valued as citizens, not someone is just tolerating them. But let me put this, it is all over the news, but let me just use this example. As you rightly say, the other speaker, if those who kill us are Lakarawas, who do we say kill us? If those who kill us are Boko Haram, who do we say kill us? If those who kill us and took away Leah Sharabu are Boko Haram, who do we say kill us? If those who kill us are ISWAP, who do we say kill us? If those who kill us are Ansaru, who do we say kill us? People hiding under religion kill us. And what is the name of the faith? Islam. Because they chant Islamic faith when they do the evil. What we have been always expected to see is those who do not like this should have publicly come out and condemn it and say, look, these are our citizens. You can't hide under our religion. You can't give our religion the bad name or hide under our religion to torment them. If you don't know, let me tell you this. On the day the Shia group were killed, I used to be in Lagos every second Sunday of the month of December to attend a program in Chris Okoti's church called Caris Award. I was in church and I was called. I know what I did that day. I reached out to Erufai. I reached out to Buratai through his spokesman, the General Shika Shuka. I gave the Shia people the number of Bishop Kuka so that we will add our voices to say, look, anything that happened to them is happening to our brothers. So we have always fight for each other, defending each other, but we in the North can also tell that there are times that we are being treated as if we are visitors, as if our lives do not count. And when you have such pains accumulated, and then you have this situation, the politics of China or America, first, if you care about our safety before you are looking at the danger of the safety of the politics of China and America, how will I even understand the politics of America and China? Well, I am dead. So your first concern would have been secure us. Then we can reason together and say we won't allow an outsider to intrude. But even if the outsider do not come, you will kill me. What do you expect me to do? What do you expect me to understand? I think that's why the argument here, well, it is part of the conversation. It only helps me to understand why it is coming. But you have to understand that my safety is the most important conversation before American interests, before China interests, because I know if I go to American embassy today, they won't give me a visa because I'm a Christian. If I go to Israel today, they won't give me a visa because I'm a Christian. I can tell you, I've been to Israel over 20 times, but every time I've ever entered Israel, I have to explain my name, Hayab, because in their own thinking, My name is Hayabu, but I deliberately removed the B and have Hayab. So I will explain myself. I can even lead the delegation, but I will need someone again to testify that that's my name. And I have to begin to tell them several times the meaning of that name in my dialect. So we all understand this. I think we are not novice, but there is a pains that has been existing for a long time. We've buried one too many. We have suffered pains in our country, and we are putting a deaf ear. And that's why when such cry comes, you will see different view. Oh, instead of me being killed by someone who do not care, let the other person do whatever he wants. But I'm not sure that's what we want. We want the good of Nigeria, but I think we can only get that good when we care about the citizens, when we defend the citizens, and even stop being protective of people who cause fellow citizens pains just because we share the same identity with them.
Thank you so much, Reverend. Right, I'm going to come to your calls. We only have 7 minutes for calls because I've got to go to the third part. And like the Rev clearly said, we are also here to find solutions. So make it short, make it sharp, make it succinct, and say who your question is to. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Precious.
Yes, Precious.
I'm speaking as a prophet by my colleague.
Okay.
Yeah, as a prophet, I want to ask what will happen if the Christian rise against the Muslim Fulani, because I saw it coming from far.
Okay, thank you. What will happen if the Christians rise against the Muslim Fulanis? Hello, Rev, I'm going to put that to you. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Turn off your radio, please.
Yes, my name is Altini. I'm calling from Ikeja.
Go ahead.
And I am from Kaduna. That information or that analysis or statistics that Dr.
Kabir
is giving, Dr. Kabir, I tell you, he is far from the truth. I am 60 years old and I was born and brought up in Kaduna. Exactly what we have been going through. At the slightest of provocation, they'll go to the churches and
I need your question, ma. Sorry, we don't have the time.
I am not making
understand.
I'm making a statement. That's
right.
What I'm saying. It's not true.
Okay.
What is given out is not true.
Thank you. Hello. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Please turn off your radio. Good afternoon.
I've done that. So I just have a particular question from Mr. Dave, because you asked me a question about if the whole actor, if there's politics towards all these acts, and he was kind of blaming the US and everything.
Who's that? Who are you talking about? David,
yeah.
Not Dave. David.
Because I think these killings are it's kind of political, because our government is actually taking it political. And one more question is that it's actually what evidence do they have about the United States stealing people's property? Do anybody have evidence?
What evidence do David or the panels have that United States is trying to steal our resources?
Yeah,
that's
and
a question. No. I can only take one question. The lines are literally on fire. Sorry, and I still have questions on WhatsApp. Hello.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Your guest as well. Good evening.
Good evening.
I hear Mr. David Undeng loud and clear. You said this is not a genocide. This is pogrom. How do you explain to the average Nigerian that has witnessed his brothers, sisters, children massacred in blood daylight by terrorists, insurgents, shouting Allahu Akbar, and nothing has happened? Now they are torn between the terrorists, they are torn between insurgents, and the Nigerian government that has failed to do anything. And then they get a bit of respite from somebody who is the third person.
Mrs. Oboli, do you have a question, please? We really don't have time. Do you have a question?
My question is this, ma'am. So what would you give them as a source of succor to remove this pain they felt from 2018 to this present time, and this government is apathetic about the situation?
Okay. Thank you. Right, we have quite a lot of questions there. I understand to tell those of you, we have quite a lot of people watching on YouTube. You can drop your questions on YouTube if you have questions, and we're going to try also pick up. Yes, I have my wonderful assistant here doing that. So, Kabir, you have a question. Rev, you have a question. David, you have a question. I'm going to go in that order. And I've got to be strict now because, honestly, we're about to run out of time. Kabir, 1 minute. Answer your question, please.
She was doubting my data source.
Yeah.
We've been connected for about 13 years and never had any situation. Operating in about 10 countries. We've relied on our data to save lives. We're a security risk management company. And if she is interested and wants to interrogate the data further, she can contact us. We'll be happy to. What I think the challenge is, there is a lot of bias. I was really waiting for Reverend to, in one sentence, admit the fact that Muslims are also being killed. And unfortunately, I didn't hear that. I acknowledged his pain, but I waited for him to acknowledge the pain of the other side. I didn't hear that. And I'm hoping that that's not what the caller is also doing. The fact that Christians are being killed does not mean that Muslims are not being killed. And what the data simply showed is the spread of the killings. And for an unbiased person, the conclusion is very clear. Both sides are being killed, and in some instances, more Muslims are actually being killed than Christians. I hate to say this is not a conversation I ordinarily would have gone into, and I think I explained this to you, Ireti. It's not helpful. The fact that people are being killed, humanity is what matters. Faith is important, but humanity is important. These are lives, irrespective of whether it's Christian or Muslim lives, and I think we should speak as one to encourage the government, and in fact, if we can, coerce the government to take action to stop the killings.
Thank you. Right, David, you saw that. Short, sharp, and succinct. You have a minute. Go ahead to answer your question.
Well, so the gentleman asked them, do I have any evidence that the US is trying to occupy Nigeria
Correct.
for the sake of rare earth
Correct.
minerals? To which I say, well, look east. Because as I said, Nigeria is 2 borders away from the world's greatest example of what the US does when it goes into your country, when it occupies your country, supposedly to do good for you, and what the result of that thing is. So if you're waiting for Donald Trump to give you a signed confession saying, hi, James from Okota, the reason I want to come to your country is because I want the things under your feet, which I value more than the people standing on top of them, and I really don't care about your life, whether you're a Muslim or you're a Christian, you're going to be waiting till you die. No such thing is going to happen. The point of being geopolitically aware, and the point of reading the news, and the point of being educated is to be able to put 2 and 2 together to get 4. So if someone has put those 2 and 2 together and got 4, and you disagree simply because you feel that it's not correct, well, I suppose you take your feelings and do whatever you want to do with them. There's nothing I can do.
Thank you. Rev, I'm coming to you. The question was, what would happen if there was a Christian uprising and they could take apart the Fulanis or something? I paraphrase. Could there be such a thing, Rev?
Yeah, in just 2 sentences. Number one, the Christians will never take arm against Fulani, because the day we do that, we have fell in our Christian teaching. The Bible even says, if they slap you on one cheek, turn the other cheek. I think what we've been doing is what I call extreme.
But if I may interrupt you, sir, but what happens when the other cheek is already bright red? How many times can you turn the cheek? That's what my listener was saying.
Patience, it goes beyond just the turning of physical cheek. So it tells a lot about your Christian attitude. Look, even in marriage, you go through worse situation. Not for 1 year, not for 10 years, not for 20 years, until death do you part. If you don't learn to tolerate things like this, you will not grow. But tolerating it do not mean you will not complain about it. Tolerating it do not mean you will not speak out about it. I just wanted to use my 1 minute to add, if doctor did not hear when I said that when Shiite were killed, I even intervened, then he has further confirmed his own bias too. But because what we are saying here, if I could go out of that for Shiite, who are they? Are they not Muslims? I acknowledge they were killed and I went out of my way to defend them. Check, I am the only non-Christian, even the Muslim, that condemned the blasphemy, the lady who was killed in Niger for blasphemy. But because probably you have a program mind, you want me to say red, I'm not going to say red, because the complaint here is Christian genocide. It wasn't Islamic genocide. When it comes there, I will respond to it, because you have to answer questions according to what it is. At the moment, as I know, that your data is not true, as that lady said. I told you I have my data, but time wouldn't have permit me, and I sent it to the studio, but they told me to speak from here, because you would have seen the data and the maps as we have. You may have done that for 50 years, but you see there's sentiment in your 50 years.
Sir, actually, can the technical people hear me? Do you have Rev's data? If you do, please let me know, so we can at least, we can do what, 1 minute of
I
it?
have a presentation,
Reverend.
not just
yeah,
data.
how long is the presentation?
Talk about the
I
crisis,
think,
the killings of Christians.
yeah, sir, I think because you joined late is what happened. So how long is your presentation? Reverend?
It all depends on, no, I would have just highlighted the issue of numbers.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. How long is it? How long is it, sir?
Well, if it is projected there, I will just highlight the pages.
All right,
and
okay.
Probably in 3-5 minutes, I'm done.
Okay, right. I can give you 2 because we're running out of time and the lines are still going. If the technical people can hear me, please bring up. Aha, there we go. Reverend, they're about to bring up your presentation, because the last thing we want anybody to accuse us of is not showing your presentation or taking any sides. Right, are you trying to put it up? Hello? Yeah? Is he trying to put it up? Tunde, are you trying to put up the presentation? Please do so now, so we can move on to the third part 3. Okay, they're not ready. Right, whilst they're doing that, I will have to interrupt whoever's talking once they're ready to put that up.
No, I think there's no problem.
No, sir.
Point,
no, sir.
We have to work together to coerce government.
Yeah, but
sir, take action.
Sir,
I agree with that 100%, and that's what we want to see done.
No, sir, I would like to put it up. First and foremost, the reason it wasn't up is because you did join late, but I would like them.
No, I didn't say you did not.
I know, but I'm just saying I would like them. You've mentioned it twice.
You understand that?
Yes, I would like them.
Anybody.
I know. I would like our technical people to actually put it up, because this is a balanced discussion. And we're not all going to agree, but we're going to explore all avenues. Tunde, are you able to put up that presentation now, please? Once you are, just put it up and I'll stop whatever I'm doing. Right, let's go to part 3. Kabir, I'm going to come to you. One of the questions that I had before, which when you had said 80 actors, and it follows in line, I think, with what Rev said and what David said, is that where are those 80 actors? What religion are they? Number one. Number two is, like David said, if they are of, the Islamic religion, then surely it's the Muslims, well, not necessarily, moderate Muslims or whatever you want to call them, but it's Muslim extremists who are doing the killing. Over to you. 80 actors, you said.
Yeah, I think it's the premise of that argument is faulty.
Okay.
The 80 actors are spread across the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. I do not think they are grouped to project or protect a religious affiliation. They are grouped most times to protect either ethnic interest, some other group interest, or in some instances political interest. So just to give you an example, there are about 6-7 terror groups. These terror groups are affiliated with the two jihadist global franchises, Al-Qaeda and then the Islamic State, the Jamaat al-Ahli al-Dawat wal-Jihad, the Islamic State in West Africa province, Lakurawas, Mahmudawas, Ansaru, name them. And then you have ethnic groups. In Kaduna there is no ethnic group that does not have an ethnic militia and that are armed. The disturbing element, which unfortunately most times people don't want to admit, is that communities pay some form of money, collect money, to arm these groups, to protect group interest, and sometimes to buy influence. So again, I think it's something that we need to acknowledge. I did mention that there are Fulani ethnic militias. There are bandits too that are embedded in that. And then, of course, there are other criminal groups that are associated. If you go down the south, you would see different elements of those groups, and some of them ethnic militias, others projecting. Of course, the IPOBs, and there are different aggregations, almost about 8 subgroups under the indigenous people of Biafra. So when you sum all of this up, they come to about 80 thereabout.
Okay.
To answer whether they belong to a single religion, of course, by my explanation, it would be very clear to the unbiased listener that they don't belong to one ethnic group. But, and I think this is the danger, and I was very happy when David Hundeyin brought that out clearly. The media, which is also guilty of this, reports cases of attacks that project certain ideological affiliations. So, for instance, when groups that are Muslim-oriented attack Christian groups, they are reported. But when the same group attacks, let's say, in places like Zamfara or Katsina, nobody reports it. Nobody even cares about it. But meanwhile, the attacks, today only in Zamfara, we recorded about 8 incidents of attacks and killings. But I doubt if they were reported by any of the media platforms.
Thank you so very much. I will be coming back to you because I want to talk to you about the way forward. One of the things that, people often talk about, and in Nigeria, I believe the vast majority of Nigerians, when these things are discussed, those who discuss them discuss over the heads of the ordinary Nigerians. So one of the things that's thrown about, buzzwords as we like, is kinetic and non-kinetic approach. Doc, I'm going to be coming back to you in a few minutes, but let me go to David. Before I go to David, yes, Rev, I'm being told that your presentation is 49 pages, unfortunately. Which page would you it's okay, sir. Which page would you like us to show? And also, you would have to share your screen.
We will share it. Don't worry. I don't need to waste people's time.
Okay.
I think we are going to the main course of it.
Okay.
Let's focus on what we are discussing so that we don't get diversion.
All right. Superb.
I like that last question. So can Dave help us to guide us, please?
Okay. All right. Thank you. Right. I was asking Kabiru about kinetic and non-kinetic approach. But David, before I come to that, does Nigeria have any friend on the international stage? I mean, if I listen to you, it's almost like we don't, or do we? And who is our friend? Whether it's for money or for resources or just to protect us, to defend us. David, can you hear me?
Countries generally don't have friends. And Nigeria is no different. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can. We can now.
Hello?
We can.
Hello?
We can.
Yeah, we can.
So I said countries generally don't have friends. Yeah, there's a like, sorry. Countries don't have friends. Countries have allies, and Nigeria is no different. And the premise of being an ally is not that two of you love each other, is that your interests happen to coincide at a specific point in time. So you create an alliance out of that shared interest. So which countries does Nigeria have a shared interest with presently? Those countries primarily are Nigeria's neighbors. Because Africa, by and large, especially West Africa, is in one geopolitical situation, which is that we are a collection of very relatively weak states, by and large, weak economies, weak industrial capacity, very weak defense capability. The whole of West Africa can be invaded by a single competent European military. So a country like France, for example, which has, France, the population of France is maybe 3 or 4 states in Nigeria. France can invade the whole of West Africa. It has that capacity because West Africa is that weak. So Nigeria's primary allies right now are its neighbors, which is why the decision to make an enemy out of Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, in my opinion, was one of the biggest diplomatic errors that Nigeria has ever made in its entire history, post-colonial history. Nigeria needs to be drawing closer to its neighbors. So the split of West Africa into ECOWAS and AES, I think, is a very, very bad thing for West Africa and for Nigeria. So the primary group of countries that Nigeria should be drawing closer to itself now and integrating itself with is its neighbors, instead of fragmenting itself and then trying to build bilateral relationships with countries like France, which for some reason has been Nigeria's policy since 2023. And then going beyond Africa, if one is looking at superpowers, whose interests happen to coincide with those of Nigeria right now? I think the answer is very obvious. Nigeria supposedly is a BRICS partner state, right? And as we well know, BRICS is basically a euphemism for a different world order from the existing US NATO world order. So Nigeria primarily should be looking to partner with its contemporaries in the BRICS nation states, be that the 5 main BRICS states, be that the partner states like Indonesia. There are a lot of countries in Southeast Asia which hold a lot of promise and a lot of potential and a lot of potential usefulness to Nigeria as well. So that's where Nigeria should be looking toward. Nigeria should be partnering with anyone who can offer technical assistance, that's real technical capability, who can offer infrastructure, who can offer technology transfer and skills transfer. Those are the things that Nigeria actually lacks. Because Nigeria has everything else. Nigeria has the resource base and the population to be able to make itself the superpower that it really ought to be. By size, but which is nowhere close to being right now. So that's what Nigeria should be doing.
Thank you very much. Rev, I'm coming to you because now I want to talk about justice. And as somebody that represents a community that's heavily affected in the same way Kabir represents the data, what does justice look like for victims, for you, for your congregants, and, all those other communities? I'm going to give you 2 minutes because, again, the lines are going and we don't have time.
One of the reasons why this competition is still holding is because of the absence of justice. And what do we mean by justice? Justice is purely what is the provision of our Constitution about individual right. If my right is protected, your right is protected, the right of everybody is protected, I am seen and treated as a Nigerian according to our Constitution. That is justice to me. When evil people, whether they hide under religion or hide under whatever identity, cause me pains, or kill my wife, or kill my daughter, or kill my father, or my mother, or kill my members, our law requires have a provision for that. Go after them, bring them to book. Let them pay for their sins. Let them pay for the evil they've caused us. But what is happening in our country is that this many evil that have been happening many years ago, you really do not find any tangible thing. And even when these people are arrested, the procedure, the time, the length of duration that we would take to be going to court, it's just as if someone do not really care about life. So there is nothing to show the other person that if you do it, the law will catch up with you. And why people keep enrolling into extreme groups or extremism is because they saw those who did it, nothing happened to them. The fact that they are instead celebrated, they are instead being honored. There's something I want to say here that people may not know. Even this so-called calm, that there's no problem, there are some Nigerians that I'm speaking to you that are actually living in slavery. Because these bandits have just stopped kidnapping people. But I can tell you communities are named where they still go there, even as at yesterday. When you are sleeping in your room, they will come and ask you to go out, and they will lie down in your room till the next day. You cannot go away. You will just stay outside. If they chose, they will come out of their farm and keep their gun in your house and go to somewhere. That day, you are not going to go anywhere. You have to stop for them. Because if the gun is missing, you are finished. Apart from that, they will also come and force you to just go and farm a big land, but you know that that farm does not belong to you, you are not going to harvest it. If people in Nigeria are still going through this kind of pains, then you know something is wrong. We need to make Nigerians feel secured, protected, and feel valued. Once we do that, then justice is done. But where you don't care what happened to them, they cry and you feel they are not there. That's why sometimes this manipulation of situations may happen, because when someone is in pains, he will say what he wants to say, or he will cry out in the way he understands by expressing his pains.
Thank you. Rev, if I may follow up with what you've just said, and this is a direct question. not being controversial, do you believe the Nigerian government cares about justice, or they're protecting a particular part or one side of this conversation?
A good number of those who have led us, even up to today, do not see justice as something. Because in their own case, they just want to remain in office, hold on to office. What happened to the people do not really matter. Because for justice to be done, you must be willing and ready to step on toes by ensuring what is right, even if it hits at your friend, even if it hits at someone you hold so dear. But once you don't want to hurt people, you just want to please even the person doing evil, there is no justice. I have said this earlier, that in the last 2 years, there is a shift. And I said it and even give credit to our governor, and I can even give credit to the National Security Advisor, the other security chiefs, especially the ones that were just moved out recently, that they did their best to change and reduce the frequent killing. But not that the killing has stopped. Killings are still going, but when you look at the rate, as at 2021 to 2023 March, you will see that there is a shift and there's a reduction. But is that what we want? No, we really want a stop. We don't want anybody to die, whether he's a Christian or a Muslim, whether he's from the north or the south, whether he has no religion. Every Nigerian should be protected by Nigeria.
Thank you. Dr. Kabir, I'm coming back to you. One of the things that I've heard you say is that you've done some sort of, security audit on many of the states in Nigeria. I'd like you to talk to us about what you found from that audit. That's number one. Number two is what I was asking earlier about kinetic and non-kinetic solution, because again, that's the new buzzword. And I honestly think part of the importance of Borderlines is to educate and speak in plain English so everybody can be part of the conversation, because it's a national conversation.
Okay, there are 36 states in Nigeria, obviously, so we don't have enough time for me to go into what I found in the 36 states of the Federation. But in simple terms, only one state in Nigeria, which is Lagos State, has what can be described as the near effective public security system, a layered one that has the different components. And that layer starts from identification down to recovery. So if something should happen, the speed with which you are able to take note that incident is happening, and then the speed with which you are able to report it, and then it is documented, and then response. And in security, terms, the response time shouldn't be greater than 15 minutes, between 7 and 15 minutes. In some instances, even 2 minutes. Now, only Lagos has something near that. There is no other state. At some point, Edo State was developing something, but then somehow when the administration was changed, we're not sure that's effective any longer. Enugu State too was trying, at least with regards to one of the components of a public security system. In the northern states, I haven't been to any northern state that has the structures. They are trying some ad hoc methods, and one very effective one is Kaduna State, which the Reverend spoke to. It's ad hoc, and I do not think it's going to last too long. Unfortunately, I don't want to be a harbinger of bad news, but the ingredients that are required for public security system are lacking. And I think this is the area that the governors would need to look at. They're getting a lot of money now as a result of the changes that the federal government has made in terms of the removal of oil subsidy and all of that. And so they can utilize that money to create effective public security systems. Now, with regards to your second question, the buzzword kinetic and non-kinetic. And for me, it's possibly the most unfortunate circumstance of where we are at the moment. At the risk of sounding a little bit pedestrian, I would say that the buzzword non-kinetic has become another conduit for siphoning public funds. Right now,
explain to us what non-kinetic is, and I'm going to only give you a minute more because I'm being told I have 6 minutes till the end of the show. Oops.
Now, in simple terms, kinetic is the use of force. All the arsenals for force, and then non-kinetic are those non-forceful ways of intervening and then trying to win the hearts and minds of the people. So the military could go and build a hospital, they could carry out a medical outreach. All of that can be subsumed under non-kinetic. Now, the irony is this. Some of those projects are actually projects that our politicians have already included inside the budget, but they didn't do it. And then now you have a security organization going to do it. And nobody is asking that question. EFCC is not raising questions. ICPC is not looking at that. So again, that's why I said it's become a conduit for siphoning public funds. But is it effective? It's been effective in certain instances if it is applied smartly. You have to apply it. We cannot run away from the crux of the matter, the elephant in the room, and that is the absence of rule of law, the absence of accountability within the security space. If 9,000 people have died, not a single person has been held accountable for the death of those 9,000 persons. And I think it's a mere simple case of the absence of accountability within the security space.
Thank you so much. Prof, I'm coming to you. I haven't forgotten you. I know that you're a keen observer. So perhaps you could share what you've observed as an outsider or a non-Nigerian who has done this research, who's written this book. I'm going to give you a minute, then I've got to go and at least 2 more questions on the radio. So your minute starts now. What would you like to say from everything you've heard so far?
I think one of the questions that is hovering is what is motivating these Islamist groups to do what they're doing. And now let me emphasize that I am going to share what my research revealed, not my personal opinion on this. So I think there's a real difference between the way northern Nigerians relate to the Nigerian state from its inception and the way that southern Nigerians have related to the state. Remember that northern Nigeria was a caliphate, the Sokoto Caliphate, which was a caliphate that was run by local people, Hausa Fulani people, and was a successful caliphate, right? It's something that people are very proud of. The British came and actually put an end to that caliphate using cannons and violence, right? And they even did a census of northern Nigeria and declared the entirety of the north to be illiterate simply because they didn't speak English. Whereas the levels of Arabic literacy, I can tell you, are outstanding in northern Nigeria. So with the creation of the country of Nigeria, which is a post-colonial state in 1960, there's a sense in the north that all of the privileges went to the south, right?
Yeah, we're literally, I have to rush you because they're telling me I have 3 minutes left.
So with Christianity in the south came the English language, came civil servant jobs, which created a greater income, and came political power. So the gentleman's agreement that happened at the beginning of the creation of Nigeria was that the North would always have political power, and then the South really has most of the financial resources. And once that equation started to shift, especially in 1999, with the election of the first Pentecostal Christian to the presidency, that's when you started seeing this unrest about Sharia. Now, I just want to say that when I talked about the revolution for Sharia, when that failed,
I literally need to wrap you up for time.
That's when you had the rise of these Islamist groups. That's when Boko Haram became more powerful.
Right.
So there is an original problem with the post-colonial state that probably needs to be addressed.
Thank you very much. I must mention this because I know I don't have time. I got a report from Next Year. They heard about the show and they sent this to me. And one of their recommendations is the government should strengthen early warning and early response mechanisms. I think that's important. Now, if you can all give me 30 seconds, literally very fast. Why is it that we don't have government data that we can depend on? That's a question that came in since yesterday, but unfortunately we've run out of time. I have to use it as my ending question. Likely we'll be doing a part 2 of this because I've been getting messages asking me for part 2. Doctor, if you can do it in 10 seconds, why don't we have government data?
I think the government, public departments have this morbid fear for data. There is a lot of reasons for it. With good data, it can show progress, it can show failure. It would also show where, for instance, corruption is ongoing. So that morbid fear, unfortunately, has become institutionalized.
Thank you. Rev, can you comment on that? Why don't we have real data about what's going on from government? Oh, we're about to be thrown off.
There are too many agencies dealing with issues of data.
Mm-hmm.
The federal ministry.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. I think Reverend David, perhaps you can come on. They're literally about to cut us off.
Budget and planning. And then when you look at the way that other things.
Mm-hmm.
So the multiplication of the data agencies turns it to be more of a competitive issues about data instead of giving data that will help for
Right. David, I have to go literally. They're screaming at me now. 10 seconds. Why don't we have government data?
Because the Nigerian state itself wasn't set up to act sovereign. It's a sovereign state that understands the importance of collecting and using data.
Right.
Nigeria was set up to be almost like an NGO state.
Yeah.
Everything Nigeria does has NGOs embedded into it.
Thank you.
And I think that's where the problem lies.
Reverend John Ayub, Chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, Kaduna State Chapter, and Country Director, Global Peace Initiative, Dr. Kabir Adamu, Security Consultant and Managing Director of Beacon Consulting Limited, David Udoyin, a colleague, investigative journalist and author, and Professor Sarah El Tantawi. I can only thank you from the bottom of my heart for sparing us these 2 hours for a most important conversation. We'll be calling on you again. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of a special edition of the Borderlines Town Hall. Yes, there will be part 2, those of you who are bombarding me with messages. Thank you, Rev.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Smart Cash now by Airtel.
This is what goodness tastes like. Golden caramel, creamy buttermint, and rich coffee. There's a Cadbury candy for every moment.
Cadbury caramel, Cadbury coffee, Cadbury buttermint. Sweet, smooth, and full of flavor. Whether you're chilling at home or on the move, there's a Cadbury candy for every mood. Cadbury candies, now at a pocket-friendly price of 25 naira only.
You don't just vibe to anything, and that's okay. Do you like it hot?
Hit me.
Then go for Mini Me Noodles Ninja Pepper flavored, the spicy rebel. Do you like it fresh?
Smooth.
Then get your Mini Me Noodles chicken and veggies flavor, the fresh gang. Maybe you like to party.
Giggy.
Then you need to have a taste of Mini Me Noodles Party Jollof flavor, party starter. Or you could be a foodie.
That's it.
Then you'll love Mini Me Noodles sloppy chicken flavor, the foodie vibes. Whatever you like, Mini Me's got a flavor for you, so pick your vibe. Mini Me Noodles. Slot life.
Is that Alfie playing football in the rain?
It's Toby Chio.
My goodness. When did he grow up?
That's it with kids, though. It's amazing how your child grows up before your eyes. Enable their thriving development with the new NanKid 4 with HMOs to support your child's development, probiotics, and high-quality proteins to support age-appropriate growth. NanKid 4. Nourish your child's potential.
In the kitchen game, there are players and then Agba Ballers, MVP, Player of the Year, 10-0, no rival. Become an Agba Baller with the new improved Maggi chicken flavor, made with a flavorful formation of onions, celery, turmeric to bring out your top game in the kitchen. Elevate the taste of your everyday dishes with delicious rich chicken flavor. Oh yeah, let's go.
New Maggi chicken flavor, my game changer.
When life tries to hold me down.
Whether you're chilling with your friends, in town with your clique, watching a movie with your bestie, turning up at parties for the jollof, or just chilling at home by yourself, reach for a refreshing bottle of Razzle. Razzle your world and express yourself with the new and exciting flavors of Razzle. Cola, orange, and lemon. Razzle your world.
Happy birthday, Ogami! Now, wow. Oga, 73 years not a show for your eyes, oh. You see they look your phone with ordinary eyes and it's still they sharp, all the shine on top.
My pikin, sense no be so. Now Visionaries eye supplement, now I dey drink every day.
Visionaries eye supplement?
One sharp eyes not be by age. Visionaries eye supplement is made from natural ingredients and contains essential vitamins.